So, as I am battling this intense anxiety from the underwriting process, I thought I would come on here and just speak about what has helped me push past those negative thoughts that used to keep me from hitting certain milestones in life. And that is growing to learn that my negative thoughts are not my own. I acknowledge that they're there, but I've had to learn through trial and error that my thoughts don't belong to me and not every single thought is for me. And if you are like me, then you have this extreme curiosity for the mind and how the mind works. So you may have heard of people saying, oh, just stop the negative thoughts mid-thought and replace it with something positive, and kind of just sit back and just observe thoughts like clouds moving through the sky and don't do anything. And yeah, all of that sounds good until a negative thought actually pops up, and it doesn't always work, right? Like it's not just that easy. And you start working towards something that's new in life, and those thoughts come up, those what if thoughts. I can't, but well, last time this happened, and something will. And like I said before, your mind is like a wild animal. It's untamed. We don't teach our mind what to do. It kind of just does its own thing without being told to. And so I find that maybe that's why we readily accept the things that it tells us without any question. And I found myself coming back to this part of human nature through this underwriting process. And y'all, I will be completely honest. I have been a big ball of anxiety. I have not really been having an appetite. I have not had the motivation to pick up the camera and film. I really just want to sit around all day on Googling things in order to satisfy, that fearful, anxious part of me that says, hey, something can go wrong. And I am right back in that cycle where I am addicted to my trauma, and I'm using things or information to validate these thoughts and feelings that I'm having in like a sick effort to kind of lessen the blow should these things happen. And I say that I am back in default mode, which is survival mode. We set these goals, we have these intentions and expectations of ourselves, only to give glory to the thoughts that contradict them. And these thoughts are founded or based on our past experiences, obviously our beliefs about ourselves. And I find it so funny how we desire new, but we apply our old way of thinking to new visions. And last week I was reading Mark 2:18 through 22, and I really focused in on not pouring new wine into old wineskins. And I understood the concept of it in plain terms. But I was kind of like researching why not pour new wine into old wineskins. And it's basically because I found that old wineskins do not expand enough to allow for the expansion and fermenting of new wine. So if you pour new wine into old wineskins, basically it bursts, because it doesn't stretch to allow for the new. And all that was new, all the possibilities, they're lost. Spilled out on the floor, they're gone. And speaking to so many women that have these goals that hold the potential to change their lives, I've picked up on a pattern in their way of thinking, which is basically this. They have these fresh goals, they have new visions for themselves, but they're using their old way of thinking. And obviously your thoughts are going to affect your actions. And so they are going about things using the same old habits that do not allow for the growth and expansion required to hold this new vision without it bursting. One minor inconvenience and they're out. They're done. That pressure gets turned up, they're folding under that pressure because they didn't take the time to pour their new vision into a new mindset. And that is a requirement for anything that is new that you do in life. And I know that I keep saying this, but I'm going to continue to say it because I still see it being placed in a position of least importance. It does not matter what debt you start with first. It does not matter how many months you are putting back in your emergency fund. It does not matter about getting a specific interest rate. Those things are not going to get you to your goals. Those things are not going to get you to your visions. They don't determine whether you get there or not. It determines the ease and the strategy, yes. But what is going to determine if you get there or not is if you allow yourself to get there. And in this new season that I am stepping into, I have to keep reminding myself that my negative thoughts do not belong to me. Kind of like an animal, I'm addicted to watching animal documentaries, more specifically like lions and their pride. So kind of like what I'm noticing with the young animals, they learn how to move in their environments by observing. They sit there and they watch their pride. They're being taught how to act, how to move, how to think. So kind of like with our mind learns how to operate in the world by watching our surroundings. And you and I know, like, we don't have full control over our surroundings and the things that have happened to us. We don't have full control over our experiences. I still don't have full control. I will never have full control. So accept that these thoughts exist, but recognize where they come from and then move on. And this is exactly how I do it. So when it comes to my mortgage, it is 2 times the amount of my rent. For the longest time, I've been used to living on the bare minimum when it comes to my living expenses. And I've gotten to a place of comfort. I am complacent with low rent. And so this is obviously a stretch for me. This is new, a new season. So I'm in my default mode, survival mode, and my thoughts are like, oh, you can't afford this. What if you lose one source of income, things like that. And I used to give authority to these thoughts that I hadn't even been able to prove as facts, but I would just quit whatever it was that I was doing. I would pull out from it. And then I got into a season where I would stop these thoughts mid-thought and I would replace it with something positive. And whatever that something positive was, I wouldn't even fully internalize it. I didn't believe it. And so either way it goes, both of these reactions, they weren't the best. Your vision should have seniority in your life. And when you try to ignore your negative thoughts, they actually become bigger. It's just like you're kicking the can down the road. So I envision myself as like this spirit, this invisible force that's trapped in this body. As weird as it sounds, this is the way that it makes sense in my mind. Like I'm an invisible source that's trapped in this body that carries the trauma of this world. And a negative thought has entered my mind. But instead of shooing it away, I just kind of sit and watch it. Like a movie. Like I got my feet swinging in the air. I got, my head resting on my hand. I'm just kind of watching it like a movie, eating popcorn. And I don't try to refute it. I also don't validate it either. I just watch. And I'm also figuring out and trying to understand where the thoughts come from. Kind of like when you're watching a movie and something happens and you're like, oh, that's why she said that. Like it's making sense. You're piecing the storyline together. So you're now understanding why this character said this, or why this person did that, or why it was this specific thing in the beginning of the movie, and it's making sense. And because I know what it's coming from now. And now that I know where it's coming from, I also know where it's not going, which is with me. Like, you can't come with me. I understand you. I give it a little nod, and, I have to move on because I know that I made my plan. I showed you guys my budget. I put in the patience and the work to get to this point. So I'm not going to go back to Google like I've been doing in order to, soothe these anxious feelings and thoughts that I am having. I'm going to sit in all of my discomfort. I'm going to wade. I'm just wading in a pool of all of these feelings and emotions. And eventually my brain always gets the point and it moves on. You are a part of this world. You are encased in this body. Your mind is a part of who you are, but not everything that it feeds you is for you. Everything has a function. Your heart's function is to circulate blood. Your lungs function to breathe. Your mind's function is to think, reason, etc. And I was listening to a sermon from Pastor Keon Henderson. I'll link it in the description box below. But he was basically saying that if we are not experiencing a sound mind, then the mind that we have is not the mind that the divine, I call the divine God, has given us. You will never not experience negative thoughts in life. Thoughts that are going to threaten your vision. And that's why it's so useless to try to get rid of them. They're not going anywhere. The more you try to get rid of them, the more they come. But a sound mind allows you to operate in the midst of chaos that these thoughts create. And I cannot sit here and tell you that, my path or your path, our paths are going to be seamless to our vision. No, that would be a lie. But I can confidently sit here and tell you that you have power and authority over your reaction to these things. So I pray that you exercise authority over these things, and I pray for the renewal of your mind. And today is pretty much one of the first days where I feel at peace and at ease. I'm not driving myself crazy, over every little thing, every little detail in this process, because I've gone back to realize that my negative thoughts that have been creeping up, they do not belong to me. I understand where they come from, but I must detach myself from the trauma in which they were created so that I can expand and grow to allow for my new vision. So I hope that this was helpful to you guys. Let me know down below what you are working towards, and I will catch you guys in the next video.